Like father, like son.
A Great Falls High graduate steals the show in Bozeman as he follows in the footsteps of a respected commander. We're glad to have you with us at 5:30. More from the Gallatin Valley ceremony in a moment.
Leading our coverage, a Republican lawmaker wants to make sure that gun owners' personal information is kept confidential.
MTN's Marne Banks explains how this is drawing both support and criticism.
Legislators are trying to balance the right to privacy with the public's right to know. Senator Eric Moore is asking the legislature to keep all information on a concealed carry application confidential.
Article 2, Section 10 of the Montana Constitution is titled Right to Privacy and states, quote, "The right of individual privacy is essential to the well-being of a free society and shall not be infringed without showing a compelling state interest."
Moore says his bill responds to a recent decision by a New York newspaper to publish the names and addresses of everyone in their county who had a gun permit. He said the publication is at risk.
A battered woman hiding from her abuser had been protected by the court. A police officer's family is now in jeopardy. A witness who testified against a convicted felon being harassed.
Moore says people with concealed carry permits are law-abiding citizens, and their personal information should not be made public. However, the Montana Newspaper Association disagrees. They are supporting legislation which would prohibit specific addresses from being released, but the names and counties of where concealed carry permit holders live would still be public.
Article 2, Section 9 of the Constitution requires government documents to be open to examination, except in cases in which the demand of individual privacy clearly exceeds the merits of public disclosure.
Barrows says in this case, the public's right to know outweighs the right to privacy.
Montana has a firm and enduring constitutional right to know that cannot be lightly subrogated.
At the Capitol, Marne Banks, MTN News.
Montana's Attorney General says his office is taking a hard look at President Obama's executive orders addressing gun control.
Tim Fox says he understands the need to keep schools and other public places safe, but he says he's a firm believer in the right to bear arms.
But certainly if the President of the United States oversteps his authority, I can guarantee you that we won't be the last office to point that out. And again, as a last resort, be involved in the court system to vindicate the Constitution and the law.
Fox says his office will be closely reviewing any congressional actions which address gun control.
A cold front is headed for north central Montana tonight.
Mike, when does it arrive?
Tim and Katie, that front arrives early tomorrow morning, and it will actually bring a rise in temperatures rather than a cool down. Right now, that front is making its way onshore near Seattle and Portland with rain and mountain snow. It will cross over the Cascades and make it into the Rockies as we move tomorrow morning. We'll look ahead at the timing coming up in Storm Tracker weather.
Mike, a crime for Nichols. Costly damage in downtown Great Falls.
Business owners found more than a dozen parking meters busted this morning. Great Falls police report 15 meters in total were broken into along the 400 block of Central Avenue. Police do not have any leads on who pried the meters open, so they're looking to the public for any tips.
Most businesses have surveillance on the inside to help with shoplifting and those type of things. Very few have them on the outside. There are exceptions to that rule. In this particular case, we don't have any outside external videos to help us. So we need some eyes and people that were out that night watching. That would help us a great deal.
Slavic tells us the estimated amount taken from the meters is $100. The damage will cost about $1,200 to repair. If you have any information on this case, you're encouraged to call 727-TIPS.
Within the last 4 days, the Great Falls Prerelease Center has had 2 residents walk away.
KRTV's Beth Beachy takes us to the center where she found the choice to walk or stay is truly in each resident's own hands.
That's why it just has never made sense to me why someone would get to this point in the corrections process when they're really on the way out the door. They're back in the community.
Paul Corey says it's a rare few that walk away from the pre-release center in Great Falls, but says generally they walk because they get scared.
They make the wrong choice and they walk away. They take off thinking, well, that'll keep me out of trouble. In fact, it brings them more trouble.
Statewide, an average of 3% of pre-release inmates escape. 30 escaped in 2009, 24 escaped in 2010, and 28 in 2011. An average of 94% are recaptured. So for Great Falls to have 2 walkaways just a few days apart is extremely rare.
Those 2 individuals and those 2 individual circumstances, like I said, it's just kind of an anomaly with the number of walkaways that we have overall compared to the number of offenders that go through pre-release in a year.
While in pre-release, residents go through random check-ins, complete required classes, and even make curfew. And Corey says most go through the 6-month program without any hiccups.
There are people that are trying to get their lives in order. I guess what the community needs to know, when we have somebody that's out there that's no longer under our control, that if you see one of these people on the streets, call law enforcement or call us.
In Great Falls, Beth Beachy, MTN News.
For more information on the pre-release numbers around the state, specifically for Great Falls, you can find this story on our website. That's KRTV.com.
The Great Falls housing market saw some significant improvements over the past year. For 2012, the Great Falls Association of Realtors reports the average home sold for $23,000 more than the average the year before. The median price jumped almost $10,000. Experts say these numbers are finally starting to reflect more of a normal market for the community.
As the number of buyers realize and take advantage of the interest rates and are able to get the down payments that they need, that will have an effect on the inventory. I expect the houses to, the number of houses to reduce over the next year, which will have an effect on the marketability of the existing houses. I see a good year for 2013.
From a builder's perspective, locals in the business tell us they're seeing an increase in permit sales. The owner of O'Leary Building Incorporated says although builders are in higher demand than previous years, he expects that Great Falls expansion will remain steady.
I've done 6 to 7 houses a year every year the last, probably 6 years. This year I'll probably double that, probably 10 or 12. We don't have the booms, we don't have the busts.
For local contractors, having a steady demand is vital to the success of their business. Home builders help the greater economy by providing jobs for a wide variety of subcontractors as well. Anybody out there doing some building today? Maybe a little bit cooler than with that wind and whatnot.
Cooler than what we expected. We had that boundary slide a bit farther to the west last night. It got a little colder, and then we expected it to move east today, and it didn't. So we stayed in the 20s for much of the day. It's very chilly out there, and that wind did not help. This evening, notice what happens. 32 at 7 o'clock. Cloudy skies, yes. Breezy conditions, but we're up to 33 at 9 o'clock. And mid-30s by 11 p.m. We'll look at the rising temperatures and a look ahead to your Thursday forecast when the news continues.